Welcome to the bright side of longevity. Join host Dr. Roger Landry along with co-host Danielle Pailly and guests as they discuss the bright side of getting older through healthy longevity. Guided by research, this lighthearted and educational show will leave you with practical ways to brighten your life's journey. Patricia Raskin is a pioneer and trailblazer for positive messaging, and she facilitates this work as a trainer, inspiring public speaker, author, entrepreneur, producer, media coach, and talk show host. She is also an award-winning producer and business owner, and she has interviewed over 5,000 people in her career, including experts, authors, and celebrities. Patricia is the host of the new Positive Aging podcast series produced by Rhode Island PBS. Her media programs focusing on positive living have aired on Fox, PBS, NPR, and numerous affiliates. The Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show is currently heard on Voice America and iTunes. Patricia has a master's degree in counseling and is a certified coach. She has worked in the communications, coaching, media, and training fields for over 3 decades. She began her career as a teacher and a guidance counselor. Patricia Raskin is the author of 2 books, Success, Your Dream, and You, and Pathfinding, 7 Principles for Positive Living.
Well, welcome everybody to the bright side of longevity. We have a pro with us today, Danielle. Good to see you, by the way. And I'm always comforted to be on a podcast with such a pro yourself. How are you?
I'm doing well, Dr. Roger. A little envious of all your trailblazing you're going to be doing soon.
I got some travel coming up to Europe, long overdue. Looking forward to it. And hopefully the weather will all be good, but we're going to go from Spain and end up in Iceland. So the weather can change a lot with that. But we do have a pro today. Patricia Raskin, welcome. Thank you for being with us.
And I want you to know that I just came back from a cruise and our last stop was Iceland.
Was it? All right. Well, we have to connect and take some notes, It's a long overdue bucket list, particularly for my wife, Paula, who has never seen the Northern Lights. And this will be in October when we're there, so we should see them. So
beautiful. Yeah.
Look forward to that. I get to see them a long time ago, but hey, I could see them every night. So, Patricia Raskin, the people heard your immensely long and intricate, complicated, and very accomplished bio before we started all this. So they know your history and what you do. But you were with us last year when we were talking about your media work and positive aging. And but maybe we should refresh our listeners' memories. So basically, how did you begin your work interviewing guests with a focus on positive aging, Patricia?
Well, I started this work over 4 decades, and I was really focused on positive people and positive living. The positive aging has come over the last 5, 6, 7 years, which is really the same thing as positive living. It's just that we're older, so we have different considerations. And it just kind of evolved. It evolved from me being older and focusing more on that age group. And also baby boomers are the fastest growing population or fastest growing age group. And so it just fit. And I find that the principles are really the same, but there are accommodations as we get older.
Yeah, you can't avoid the demographics. They're huge, and I was just reading how an article, it was the AARP magazine, so maybe it was self-serving, but they're saying how the demographic is changing the world, the demographic, and it certainly is. And then all the things that we're discovering, I guess they're just it's an optimistic story, really. And I can see how you would get it out there, but you do it so well. Danielle, I don't know how many episodes we have. We have a lot of episodes, but we're just starting out next to this woman, you know.
Well, I've been doing this 4 decades now, and it's really been, a labor of love and a passion that turned into a career. And it has helped me a lot, Roger. I think for me, and I might have said this in my other interview, but I do often say this, that there's a book by Richard Bach called Illusions. And in the book is a parable. And there's a statement in the parable, I think it's said by the Seagull, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and it says, "You teach others what you need to learn most for yourself." And that's what I've always, always done. I mean, I was a guidance counselor in the elementary school when my daughter was little, and I needed to be a better parent, and I taught parenting skills. I needed to be more positive in my life, and I started doing positive living interviews. So when I've needed something, I've really, I've taught it, and that's what helps me.
That's interesting. It's not, but at first blush, it looks counterintuitive, to teach something that you yet are not where you want to be. You see some up on a pedestal. That's excellent. And I think that's so healthy. Well, that makes you the pro that you are. And man, have you ever talked to some interesting people and big celebrities? And so we are honored to have you and your experience with us today, Patricia.
Thank you.
So, positive aging, and it has been called many different things. I don't, you can't really sum it up, but what do you believe are the most important things that we've learned, the takeaways from this whole positive aging movement?
Well, for me, and I think in general, I think we have to face the fact that there's still ageism, and that's there. It's the elephant in the room, but it's there. And we see it with our leaders, where people are immediately judged for their age. Now, it should really be that we're judged for our ability and not our age. And some people are judged more than others. But I do think ageism is there. And I think part of it is a myth in that, older adults are savvy, they're bright, they often have more disposable income, not always, but often. They're often computer savvy. They often want to learn and grow and learn new things. And that's not what we see. It's also not what we see in the media. If you look at most of these commercials for pharmaceutical commercials, you will see a lot of the people are older and they're out there and they're playing with their kids and their grandkids. But it's all about helping us take something because we're not well. And then we also have the side effects that go along with it. So it's almost like this is the age group that we have to expect that if anything goes wrong, it will. Now, it's true that you are more susceptible as you're older, but it doesn't have to be that way. So I think the takeaways are we don't have to have the ageism, right? I think, and we're living so much longer. People are going to live to 100. We have all these medical breakthroughs. We have all these technological breakthroughs that will make us live longer and happier if we work at it. We have to do the same things that people younger have to do: eat well, exercise, sleep enough, and sleep well with quality, have friends, have a support system. I mean, all of these things are going to make a difference at any age. But if you've done them younger, it's going to be easier when you get older because it's part of a habit, and it will help you to stay youthful and to have the energy and the vitality, because it's really about energy and vitality.
It is your performance. Well, that's very well said. But I don't think people realize that ageism is a new phenomenon as far as our species is concerned in the big scheme of things. That before the Industrial Revolution, it really didn't exist all that much. People valued older adults as they do in the blue zones now. So, I mean, when you think about it that way, this is new. I think most people today think, oh, this has been around since humans have been here, and again, not true. And again, we can see it in the blue zones as cultures and small societies that still exist today. But wow, I mean, it is. Will it change? Do you think? Are we changing it?
Oh, I think it's changing a lot. I mean, because as we said, I read somewhere that our children and grandchildren will live to 100. We didn't have that in our generation. So yes, people will live longer. there'll be more tools, there'll be more technology, there'll be more ways to get around easier and faster with AI, artificial intelligence, with a lot of the technology, which helps us with mobility. I mean, there's going to be a lot more that's a lot more common. And I even think it'll be easier. I just heard something about how AI will help us drive. It'll help us so that we don't have to be in all these traffic jams because it will already reroute us. So I think yes, I think the future in terms of longevity, I think there's a lot of hope.
Yes. Supposedly the first person who's going to live to be 150 years old, according to science, is already alive. So I'd like it to be me and you and everyone here. But so supposedly we now have the capacity at some point, nobody's proved it yet, to live to 150. So if I can live healthfully, that would be good. So Patricia, you were gracious enough to have me on your show recently, and you had asked me the question that I'm going to pose to you in kind of a two-part question. Number one, do you think that we are looking at older adults in the media in a more positive way now? Do you see a positive shift? And what's your media focus in terms of aging well?
I don't know if I see an immediate positive shift. I think it's coming that way. But I think, we still have a lot of jokes and cartoons, that speak to being old. I think that is changing in some ways. My media focus now has been very interesting. It's really moved to helping institutions and mostly healthcare institutions to spread the word of positive aging. So I did a series for Rhode Island PBS called Positive Aging. It was 13 weeks. And I interviewed really icons from around all over the country. And Roger was one of them. Roger came on that program. It was great. And I also am now doing a 26-week series for a hospital system in Southeastern Mass called South Coast Health. And we're interviewing doctors and patients and staff members. And it's very interesting because you hear the inside story, the backstory of what is the doctor really like and what does he really or she really believe in, and what about the patients and what was their experience like. And so my focus is now starting to move more in that direction in terms of my media work. I still have my radio show on Voice America, which is now in its 22nd year, and I just had a big article written about me in their newsletter because I'm one of their longest hosts, because they started in 2000 and I started in 2002. So I still have that show, which is called Patricia Raskin Positive Living. So it covers everything. But the positive aging work is very focused on helping institutions or clients get that message across. And so that's really what I'm focusing on now in terms of my media work.
Yeah, that's great work. And I'm thinking too, sometimes the biggest culprits I've noticed are people who are older. Like my friends say it all the time. We make ageist comments, and I try not to be that person, but a gentle calling. Oh, I'm getting old. Oh, I'm So sometimes we are our own worst enemies, and so changing that language of how we talk about aging is really important.
Yeah. Broken humans is, I think, basically what people are feeling, or if they may not say it that way, but that's how they're viewing older adults. They're broken, or they're sick, or they're healthy. They're not healthy. They're unhealthy in some way, and certainly older adults have challenges, as young people have challenges, and older adults probably have a few more, but.
Yeah, but Patricia brought up a really good thing when she said about the mixed message in commercials. Like, you can do everything you want to do if you take this pill, but here are all the side effects to normalize abnormalities. And that's an interesting, like, you're not really empowering people. You're kind of saying you can expect to feel like this. So
It's subliminal. And what's interesting is they're all happy. Right. You see them all as they tell you all the side effects of how you might die or have a life-threatening illness because of this pharmaceutical. Right. They're showing them outside playing and happy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got to step back a minute here. 22 years, what media show lasts 22 years? I mean, there's only probably a handful. So what an accomplishment, Patricia, really. I
Well,
mean, there, there must be some substance there. We know there is, that's for
now,
sure.
it's interesting because this is one network I've stayed with. I've had lots of shows over the years, but it might be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and then you move on, but this is just one that I've stayed with because I've had that opportunity, and I've helped the network too as well. But it's been what's wonderful about it for me, Roger, is that I get to meet these amazing people who are just an example yesterday, Ralph Kilman. Ralph's got to be, he's probably, I don't know how old he is, but he's been doing this for over 4 decades. He wrote a book on conflict style, and he's one of the pioneers. And it's almost like talking to Seligman. He's like a Seligman, only he is with conflict resolution. He was the most fluid, unbelievably articulate. I'm going to repeat his interview, but the point I'm making is that I would say he's probably in his 80s. I don't know that. He could be in his 70s, but he's been doing this, as I said, over 4 decades. He was in the early 70s doing this work. And he said he talks about conflict, and he said conflict was not even a big deal then. It wasn't. Now everyone talks about conflict. And he talked about different kinds of conflict and how do you resolve it? Are you an avoider? Are you a collaborator? Are you a compromiser? And just to be with someone of that longevity and stature, and it was really powerful, to speak to in a way, the authority. And it was, I felt a great honor to have that opportunity to interview him.
I'm envious. I've read some of his things. He is quite articulate writing, and so I'm sure he's the other. Well, I want to. How about we talk about something else that's related, of course, and that's happiness. So that you're well aware. I'm sure there's a new book out. It's with Arthur Brooks from Harvard and Oprah Winfrey, and build a life you want: the art and science of getting happier. And so what's your opinion on happiness? Everyone has one, and they see it differently, but you've had the benefit of having many guests and experience, so we want to hear it.
Okay. Well, I saw their interview on CBS Sunday morning. It was a quick interview. And one of the things the interviewer asked is, he said to Arthur, well, these are the things that we think by happiness. Tell us. Money, Arthur said no. Fame, Arthur said no. And then power, Arthur said no. And I listened to that. And then we talked about how it's having a higher purpose and really just having these goals and sort of the intrinsic goals so that you know how you want to make a difference in life. And I buy all of that. However, when we say money does not buy happiness or power or fame, I actually don't agree with that. And I'll tell you why. Because if what money does to me is it gives you that freedom to do those things that allow you to make a difference. Now, you could say to me, oh, wait a minute, Patricia, you can go volunteer in a soup kitchen. It doesn't cost you anything. That's true. But I could also give a lot of money to that soup kitchen if I had it. And I also could travel around the world and be more enriched and understand more. I also could have more beauty and luxurious things in my life. Does that make me shallow? No, it makes me appreciate the finer things in life. Power, right? Can I do more when I have power? Sure, there are people that have negative power. We see it every day. But there are also people that have positive power that have made a tremendous difference. They're hiring 100,000 workers, right? So and fame too. I mean, fame has its double edge. We know that. But it gives you the opportunity to stand out and stand above and do things that maybe you couldn't do. So I'm not sure that those things don't bring you happiness.
It's so funny because I do think like on some of those shows, they go to the extreme, right? So they talk about fame, power, wealth, but all those things are important if in moderation, as you're saying. Roger, we were talking about this earlier. that according to studies, $80,000, up to 80,000, you're happier. Why? Because you can take care of yourself and your family. And then after that, you kind of reach that level of, it doesn't buy more happiness. So maybe extreme wealth doesn't buy happiness, but being able to support yourself and travel does. Maybe finding your purpose is certainly important, but do you have to be famous? No, but you have to have purpose and community around you. And when you're talking about power, who doesn't want to be personally empowered? You don't have to tell other people what to do, but to be powerful in your own nature. So I think some of the flaw is they go to such an extreme with that.
Let me just say one more other thing is that, for example, you go on a trip. I'll give you an example, flying. Okay. So you fly coach. Today, flying coach is not easy, right? A lot of the seats are very squished. If you're tall, if you have a larger body type, it's much harder. So is there a difference between flying business and flying coach? There's a huge difference. It's called comfort. Now, you might say, oh, well, Danielle, boy, I guess you took that money that you had and you blew it on flying first class. I'm not looking at it like that. I'm looking at it in terms of comfort and beauty and convenience. And all of that really makes a difference. Okay.
So I'm in the middle. So I think that I think a rich person, a powerful person, a famous person can be happy. Absolutely. And I think what his point is that, searching for those things to make you happy is a diversion.
Okay.
You can be happy without those things, but to seek them thinking that's the only way I can be happy, that's probably an error. But he did come across as saying, well, if you're rich, you're not going to be happy. Or if you're famous, you're not going to be happy. You can. And Danielle and I, and I'm sure you also, I mean, we talk so much about being mindful as something that it changes everything, your mindset, everything. And I think it's those sort of things that really being able to be mindful. Now, again, someone who is just on the bare bones and Maslow's needs is just working and can't, I just difficult to be mindful. Yeah, they're not happy. But so anyway, it's in between. But to seek it as the only way that I can be happy, I think that's an error. But again, to think that you're not happy when you have those things, that's a leap, I think. So we're in agreement.
Yeah, I think so too, because to me, when I think of the word money, it equates to freedom for me. Now, again, you could say to me, Patricia, you can walk out in the woods and be free. Right? I mean, but it's a different kind of freedom. It gives you more mobility. You have more access.
So what do you think are key motivators for older adults to find happiness?
I think support. I think having a very strong support system. I think staying active and counting, still feeling that you are useful, that you have purpose. I think that's very important. And here's where I kind of agree with Arthur a little bit. If you're sitting in your castle counting all your money as an older adult and you have no friends, that's not happy, right? Happiness is, how do I use my gifts and my skills and still be relevant? And I think that's a really important part. So friendship, I think also paying attention to moving and movement, because that helps the brain so much. There's been brain science research about this, that movement really, really helps to increase happiness in the brain because of the endorphins. And also not just that, but it's also, it's just helping us with how we can see things in a better light. It also can help with preventing dementia, not cure dementia, but it can help with that as well. So I think that movement, nutrition, mindfulness, as you said, sleep, all the things we need throughout our life, but even more so as we get older, because if we retire and we do less, it makes an impact. And I've heard stories of people who retired and did nothing, and within a year they weren't here anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And I think the three of us have pretty much dedicated the last decades of our professional life and just those sort of things, that kind of message, moving, learning, connected, purpose and meaning. Yeah, absolutely. That brings healthy longevity, and I think it with it happiness. You've heard the term you choose to be happy, and I think that goes to seeking something, thinking that that's the only thing that's going to make you happy. That's a false journey, I believe, for people.
Yes,
but
Roger,
the-
and also putting yourself in situations that make you happy. If you're going to be with a miserable person and you're dreading it and you know it's going to make you unhappy, don't do it. Right? Or if you know you're going to go into an environment, unless there's a reason you have to go into something, try to be around things and environments that uplift you. There's enough to read the paper. Read the paper. Every day there's a million things that are wrong. How often does the paper really tell you what's really, really good? Sometimes.
The data shows that the happiest decade are people in their 70s, and there's many reasons for that, but I think that's one of them. They can let go with many things that we felt were absolutely necessary, namely being with people we don't like or people who don't enrich us. I think that's an important one. And seeing where that so much of what we chased after is BS and is not going to bring us happy. I think that's why elders can sometimes cut to the chase, so to speak, and know how to be happy.
When I first started this, I was in my 30s. I mean, I started teaching before that, but when I first got into the media, I was in my 30s. And in those days, they used to say, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. And people would say to me in the beginning when I did Positive People, Patricia, you're never going to go anywhere with this. Nobody wants to hear this stuff. All they want is negative sensationalism. It won't work for you. And I've been with this now, the same theme for over 4 decades. And you know what? People want to hear it now.
You betcha they do. You bet. My media was not the media as you did. It was on the road talking to people, and I could see it in their eyes as I was speaking to thousands and thousands of people that they do. They felt uplifted and motivated, and that was a success as far as I was concerned. I agree with you. I mean, a half full type of approach to life is going to be much more productive for you in a very positive sense, and certainly happier. Danielle, you're just
I know I've got so much. We could talk for like
Ready
3
to
weeks
bust.
on this topic. There's so much. I was thinking of Laurie Santos's Science of Happiness course, and the thing that popped out is the mispredicting, where the things we think will bring us happiness won't. And it all gets down to the basics of, Roger, you talked about social connection, and Patricia had added that, essentially your vibe's your tribe. You also need to get rid of the people who are draining you, because how can you be positive? And it's all the basics that we're always talking about: physical activity, nutrition, mindfulness, whatever spirituality, your sense of purpose. And it's interesting. I coach people who are not older adults, who are much younger, and they go through when they're really unhappy. Usually they don't have a friend in the world, or they feel like they're alone, or they feel like they should talk to people because they're family, when it's not in their best interest. And so I guess I would just add one more thing to what we've already said, is to stop shoulding and musting ourselves to think that we're obligated to do the things that other people say will make us happy, when just deciding for ourselves, what works.
I want to add one more thing to this, Roger and Danielle. That's interesting. I just read something about positive toxicity. So there's a whole thing now where people are saying, you shouldn't be so positive. It's toxic. And I think what they're saying is that's not, to me, on the Pollyanna end of the spectrum. Oh, it's okay, everything's wonderful. And they used to call me that. It isn't about that. To me, it isn't about always saying everything's going to be great. It's being able to look at what isn't great and what is something you can do to improve it or make it better for yourself. What's a solution? You may not have a perfect solution. It may still be not good, but what can you do so that you can find hope in your life? And I think that's what it's about. And so you can move forward.
Absolutely. I in fact, literally just before we started recording this, I finished a recording on mindset and about fixed and a growth mindset. And you just described a growth mindset. And you know, someone who, you know, you can see what others see as negative and see the potential positive of it. COVID did it for us. I mean, a lot of COVID was positive for people who looked for the positive aspects. It was horrendous. It was terrible. We wish it didn't happen, and it caused a lot of heartache and disruption in our lives. But there was a positive part to it that we began to see had a different value system coming out of it that was much more
Connection. Connection was one of them.
Yes, exactly.
People were they had more time to spend with each other. Absolutely.
Dr. Roger Landry is a preventive medicine physician trained at Tufts University School of Medicine and Harvard University School of Public Health. For nearly 2 decades, his focus has been on empowering older adults to experience a healthy longevity. He is the award-winning author of the book Live Long, Die Short, A Guide to Authentic Health and Successful Aging. Dr. Landry is an inspiring storyteller and presenter. His keynote addresses are powerful, entertaining, and optimistic. Learn more at livelongdieshort.com. I love this because this resembles positive psychology and the upward spirals. And I think we all live in the same world because, Roger, yesterday I was doing an Insight Timer course and I was talking about toxic positivity. And I'm just trying to convey that a bad day isn't a bad life. You can say, I'm having a really terrible day without it being, oh my gosh, you can't say that. You have to be positive all the time. And just as Patricia said, what can you control? What is in your power to make a difference? And as you say, Roger, recognizing what you're ready to let go of if you can't, right? Fix it, make it better, walk away.
I think the Buddhists have it right, you know, and accept things the way they are, and all things change, and you know, and then you know, find your purpose and your connection to others, and it's not trying to change the world or to you know, I see the Barbie movie. I haven't seen the Barbie movie, but you know, it's like all colored pink, you know. That's kind of the toxicity of positivity, I think.
But I want to say something too about what we were saying when you just talked about the Buddhists, and that is gratitude, and that is believing in miracles. Now, I'm spiritual, but just those little things that don't seem like anything that the normal eye wouldn't pick out. And I'm going to give you an example. This happened to me yesterday, and I really saw it as a sign of protection. So I was driving my daughter to the train to get to New York. And this has happened to us before. We get delayed and whatever. Now we're late. And I'm rushing and I'm speeding, which I never do. And we're like counting, okay, can I speed? Can I go a little? Anyway, we got to the train. She made it within 3 minutes. This is very interesting. She gets on the train. She hops up the stairs, doesn't take the elevator with the suitcase, runs down. And just as she gets to the track, the train pulls in. It was 3 minutes late. She gets on the train and I'm thrilled because she would have had to wait 2 hours. The minute I left, there was the most tremendous downpour that you've ever seen. I mean, so bad that you could hardly see. It was like almost invisible. And I'm going, are you kidding me? All the way home, almost to where I was going, and I'm going, oh my God, if this had been when I was taking her, we would have been late because I could have only driven about 30. So it was, to me, it was a sign that, you know what? It was okay. She's being protected. I'm being protected. She got where she was supposed to go. And whoever it was, God, the higher power, because that was uncanny. I mean, that was amazing to me that would happen. And that to me was a sign of gratitude and hope that, you know what, stop worrying so much, Patricia. Things are going to be okay.
It was Einstein. I know Danielle was probably going to say this if I didn't, who said there's two ways to look at the world. One is that everything is a miracle, and the other way is that nothing's a miracle. And I think you just reflected a little bit of that opinion.
And getting people to think that way, it's, I must say, it's much easier when I'm coaching people who have a belief. It doesn't, not necessarily religion, but they believe in something. It is much easier to help dig them out on the bad days than when somebody says it's hopeless. I don't see, when you try to say, who are you connected to? Who do you go for support? Name what positive thing happened today, and you get nothing. I mean, it's hard. So having that belief.
Right, exactly. Spirituality, I think, helps. It certainly helped me. I don't know what I would do without it.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's really helped to give me that hope that there are greater forces here.
Yeah.
So it's always so wonderful to talk to you both. I love it.
I've got one more important question. I know we could go on this forever. So we know that there are tech companies producing products to help older adults. We touched on it earlier, but these are in the areas of memory, balance, robotic aids, lifestyle. Can you talk a little bit about the technology around positive aging?
There's a lot. There's a lot. And I've interviewed some of those people, and they're amazing. There's a man by the name of Dor Schooler in Israel. I interviewed him, and he has a company. I forgot the name of his company, but the thing that he's pushing a lot is called LEQ. And LEQ is this little robot that talks to you. It sits on your desk, and it can help you. It's all programmed. It can help you with your medications. It can say, "Good morning, Patricia. How are you feeling today? Well, did you have your tea yet? Did you take your vitamins?" And they actually program an answer. So it's AI. It's doing extremely well. I think it made in Time Magazine, I think it was one of their top new inventions. But what he's done is amazing. That's just one. Then there's another company called Labrador. I think it's called Labrador. And so you think of a dog, because what it does is it's like a robotic table. And now if you're not feeling well, what it does is it moves. It sets your table and it moves around. And so let's say that you just had surgery, or you fell. So this table will help do things for you. Then there's another woman in England who I think it's called something about walking. And basically one of her relatives had Parkinson's and was having trouble moving. And she's an engineer. She developed an insole for his shoe so that when he stands, he can stand better and he can move. It's much easier for him to move. And there are a lot of things like this. There's another company, I'd have to have them in front of me, but there's another one that just does memory exercises and helps older adults with memory, but you don't have to be that older either. And there are other companies that, again, work with balance and give you apps. So it'll help you so that you can use balance, because the biggest problem with older adults is balance and falling. So, I mean, again, there's apps with balance, with memory, certainly AI with robots. There's a lot out there. There are a lot of small tech startup companies, and they're really good. There's some that have things on the ceiling that will alert you if there's a problem. They'll alert you if someone falls, or they'll alert you if you need something. Or there are even AI pieces that will let the family know, they'll let the family know what's going on, so they can see electronically what's happening with the older adult family member. I mean, it's pretty powerful stuff.
Brave new world, right? It certainly is, and with the demographics driving it, I think even the young techies are interested in improving the lives of older adults. So,
and it's often young people who are doing this.
Yes, it's exactly.
Hey, I've got my Aura fitness ring that sends me a notification if it says, "Oh, your heart rate variability, your heart rate is a little bit lowered. I think you should take it easy today. You might be stressed." It's a ring, and it's attached to a phone app, and it will actually tell me, you should probably take it easy today.
I've heard it. I've seen the watches, but I haven't seen a ring. That's something. So
I know. And just think about how it can tell your family. I mean, that can be a stress reliever. Like, I'm worried about my older adult, and now I just got the information that they got. it spread to my phone or was able to be communicated to my phone as well.
So what's ahead for you now, Patricia? What's in
What do I
your
want? What do I want for the rest of the time? I wanted to be able to still be purposeful. I'd like to be able to do more podcasts in the healthcare field and in other fields. And I'd like to continue doing my training. I do a lot of corporate training, Roger, in the area of conflict resolution, stress management, mental health. We've had so many mental health issues now. So mental health awareness, organization, all of those kind of life skills. So I want to do that. I would like to write my third book. I'm not ready there yet, but I've written 2 books a long time ago. And I really do want to write a third one and share more of these amazing stories of amazing people that I've met. And I just think there's a lot out there. And as I said to you, I think what keeps me going is doing the work. A lot of people, work, they go 9 to 5 and then they can't wait for the weekend. The work is what energizes me.
I think we see that.
Roger, I think she's going to be the one to live 150 out of the 3 of us. I think it's going to be her.
Oh, that's right. Oh, well, keep doing what you're doing. You're helping all of us. You're helping our species, and you're able to use the media in a very, very positive way, which is refreshing to see these days. And so we're just thrilled that you're here. I see a third episode when the dust settles for you, maybe a little bit, which may be quite a while. But we love meeting with you and hearing what's going on in your very, very busy world. Thank you, Patricia. And Danielle usually asks, how people get in touch with you. So I'll do it this time. How's that? How do they find out more about Patricia Raskin?
PatriciaRaskin.com. I have to tell you, I'm having my website totally revamped and I'm so excited about it. And so it's not quite there yet. We're in the design stage, but it's PatriciaRaskin.com and it'll lead you to everything. It'll lead you to how to find me, or you can write to me, Patricia@PatriciaRaskin.com, and get on my newsletter list so you can see all the great guests I have on every week.
Well, thank you once again. We were honored. Danielle and I are honored, and our listeners, I'm sure, are going to be uplifted by all of this. Definitely a positive message. So you live what you talk about. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, Roger. It was an honor and pleasure to be with you, and uplifting for me.
You've been listening to The Bright Side of Longevity with host and preventive medicine physician and award-winning author Dr. Roger Landry and co-host nationally board-certified positive psychology and mindfulness coach Danielle Pailly. If you like the show, please rate and review, and be sure to click to follow.